A beautiful good afternoon to you, everyone. Hockey fans, big news in the world of hockey today as two big extensions came down, ones that we were waiting a long time for. The Montreal Canadiens extend the newly acquired Kirby Dach, who they acquired at the 2022 NHL draft in exchange for, well, it was the deal that had Romanov go to the Islanders pretty much for the 13th overall pick that got swapped with another pick for Kirby Dach. And the Ottawa Senators get Tim Stützle locked up for 8 years at $8.35 million, a big price tag, but I think worth it in my opinion. We're going to break down how the Senators look long term with their core locked up, all for 5+ years. Batherson, Norris, Stutzle, Kachuk, all locked up for 5+ years. Kirby Dach, how does that deal look right now, and how does it look moving towards the future? What did Kent Hughes say at his press conference? We're going to break all of that down. So I hope that everyone's having a wonderful afternoon here today, September the 7th. Beautiful weather out here. Flyers 2025-26 season part 2 Flyers franchise mode went out today. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out as soon as possible, as we'll be moving into the postseason soon. But if you are watching after we've already gone live, welcome to you as well. But if you're watching live, you're here to throw in your comments as we go. And let's start it off with looking at the first contract that was signed today, which was Kirby Dach's 4-year contract, paying him $3.3625 million per season. Now, this is an interesting deal because, of course, at the moment, no one's really going to say that Dach has necessarily earned this contract. An AAV of this much is a bit heavy for what he's done so far, which is not very much. 3 years with the Hawks, last season, 26 points in 70 games, but on one of the worst teams in the league. He is the former 3rd overall pick, and he's only, 21 years of age. He is going to be a very interesting piece moving forward, and the Canadiens are paying for that while also keeping him as an RFA after the expiration of his deal. So he'll get $3.3625 million for the next 4 years. He'll be an RFA afterwards with arbitration rights, and it has a high possibility of being a very good value contract on the back half, years 3 and 4 especially. When you look at the Montreal Canadiens situation right now, you'll see that they definitely don't have a lot of money to play with, but that is before Carey Price and presumably Paul Byron have been placed on the LTIR. So the Montreal Canadiens with Dach signed, but forget the cap situation. It is pretty tight. It's pretty crowded here in Montreal. So let's take a look at all of this now. The Canadiens are 10.239 over the salary cap, but Carey Price will start and likely spend the entire duration of the season on the LTIR. So there's $10.5 million in relief. Sean Monahan, will he necessarily start on the LTIR? Not sure. And Jonathan Drouin, it is possible that he's back. Paul Byron is likely to play this season, but I would say he likely starts the season on the LTIR, as being on the LTIR means that you will miss at least 10 games. So no harm in putting him there. So the Montreal Canadiens at this moment, let's do the math, 10.239166. And then that's negative. Give yourself, went back too far. Hold on. Oh, now it's lagging a little bit. Sorry about that. Give myself 10.5 million, and now give myself Paul Byron's 3.4. That gives me 3.66 million to play with going into this season. That's before any moves are made, because as you're going to see on the depth chart right here, things are very tight in Montreal. There is not a lot of room, especially if Slavkovsky is making NHL. At this moment, you have guys like Armia, Dach, Evans, all like third liners playing on your fourth line. And that's even with Slavkovsky not in the lineup. Christian Dvorak possibly being out due to trade, Mike Hoffman possibly being traded. But let's say the season in a perfect world, maybe not perfect for these guys, but if Drouin, Monahan, and Byron are all out of the lineup to start the season, let's say you have Dach and Armia bumped up a little bit, that still leaves Evans on the fourth line. He's a third-line centerman. He'll be playing fourth line. Not ideal. That's also with Pitlick and Pizzetta out of the lineup. So I feel like a trade's definitely going to happen for the Canadiens. Kent Hughes says that he is exploring it, but he's not going to force it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that would likely be later on in the season, a guy like Evgeny Dadonov. But for right now, to start off the year, I would think that the number one candidate would be Mike Hoffman. Take $4.5 million there. There's $8.16. So 8.16 million is free. If you bump up Armia, you bump up Dach, you bump up Evans with him out and these two guys injured, that doesn't leave room for Slavkovsky. So that also has a bit of what's going to happen there. It's an interesting situation where the Canadiens aren't looking to contend, but they have a roster of NHL caliber players. The defense is another story, absolutely. But the forward core in Montreal is not bad at all. So that's the situation here in Montreal. The Dach contract is not a bad one. If we go over to Jay Fresh now, I want to see the Jay Fresh card on Kirby Dach. We see that it's nothing crazy. Scrolling through, and he gets to Tim Stützle after. And he has a good description on Kirby Dach as well, which is an interesting little tidbit here. Kirby Dach signed 4 by 3.4 round by Montreal as a young playmaking centerman who has struggled to take the next step. So far, he doesn't shoot much and doesn't score when he does. He's a decent transition player and has nice hands, but struggles to create sustained possession and offense. So primary assists per 60, not bad at all. He draws some penalties, solid on the penalty kill, playing against decent levels of competition. He had the time on ice of a second liner last year, but was on a very bad team and high quality of teammates to boot. Even strength offense, even strength defense, nothing really to write home about. And again, take this with a grain of salt, but this is his projection card for headed into 2022-23. Better numbers than this last year, absolutely. So primary assists would take a bit of a dip, but at least even strength offense and defense would both be passable for a guy who's still trying to find himself in a middle 6, bottom 6 kind of role. So I like this deal for Kirby Dach. All that to say, I like it. It's obviously a bit expensive now, but the Canadiens have the money. Plus, it won't be a bad deal moving forward. And Kirby Dach was even quoted as saying it's not about the money, it's about wanting to win cups long term. Of course, the Canadiens aren't trying to win the cup this year, but the Canadiens will be trying to contend in whatever, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Will they be contenders? I don't know, but they'll be trying to contend. And Kirby Dach says it's not about the money for him. You know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Believe him if you will or you won't. But it's very interesting. I like it a lot for Kirby Dach. Hopefully it has more value in years 3 and 4 than 1 and 2, but you know, that is the natural progression of things. Now we move over to Tim Stützle, who signs a great extension. Many people are calling it an overpayment, and maybe it is right now. But in today's NHL, where you're betting on your players who are 22 to 26, as opposed to dishing out big money on free agents, this is not a big risk move for the Senators, I don't think. $8.35 million for the next 8 years, paying him $66.8 million. I believe the final 4 years he submits a 10-team no trade clause. No team trade list, excuse me. And the Senators are going to like this deal because it continues to allow them to have their core locked up. Looking at the next few years, they have Brady Tkachuk locked up till 2028. They have Josh Norris until 2030. They have Batherson until 2027. Stutzle till 2031. Claude Giroux, 3 more seasons. Mathieu Joseph, not bad. I like him until 2026. They have Thomas Chabot until 2028. The core is signed up. They're going to need a long-term goalie eventually. They're going to need better defense eventually. They're going to need better bottom 6 pieces eventually. But with your top 6 lined up and having so much value in the youth, this is a crazy good thing for the crazy good position for the Senators to be in. Now, again, maybe you're saying it's a bit of an overpayment right now. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you at this moment, but it's not going to be an overpayment for long. As soon as this season, it's going to be a very good value contract. Tim Stützle, let's see what Jay Fresh's description is here. I have a bit to add on him myself afterwards, but he describes him as a promising young forward who loves to carry the puck in transition and show off his hands. Tim Stützle, I believe he was 5th in the NHL last season for completed dekes per 60 minutes. Still working out how to create offense in dangerous areas. He produced well last season, but mostly on the power play. So even strength offense and defense, nothing to write home about, nothing really crazy. He draws penalties, plays against high levels of competition, great on the power play. And for these offensive and defensive numbers, he's still above average for goals and primary assists per 60. He's a flashy player who is going to be surrounded by even better players. But here's good stuff, even more good description, commentary here from Jay Fresh. Is a bet on potential. The potential is evident to everyone who watches him. I wouldn't be overly worried about how the player card looks at the moment. And you can't just say, oh, it's his line mates. the numbers look like they do because of those line mates had better results without him. If/when his offensive numbers go up, it'll be because he learned how to use his line mates better, not because the Senators acquire better guys to put around him. Mr. Brian Michalak, doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing well as well. And I saw what you said in the Discord earlier about the Bruins. I like that commentary. It's going to be an interesting year for Boston. Let me know what you think about these extensions down in the comments section for all of you who are watching at the moment. So all that to say, Tim Stützle, if anyone's calling it an overpayment, that is going to be gone within the next month. I don't think you can call it an overpayment as soon as the season begins. The Senators are going to be a scary team. They may be pushing for the postseason, and to have him locked up at this term, I like this a lot for Ottawa. You're going to get Alex DeBrincat signed up as well. But now let's look at the money situation in Ottawa. The Senators have $7.040119 million to play with. Next season, you add 6.4 of DeBrincat, you add 1.5 of Watson, 950K of Gambrel, 750K of Howard, and whatever. Alex Formenton is not signed yet, but he wouldn't be signed anyways. Rory loves the signings for Ottawa, very much like Suzuki's contract. It will become a steal of a deal in a couple of seasons. Yeah, well said. And again, teams would rather take those risks on their guys who they can control the rights of, as opposed to having to overpay a big free agent. That's what this NHL is shifting to. I was reading it from, there was one analyst who was saying something along those lines. The defense will be overhauled by 2023-24. $3 million of Hamonic, 2.5 of Zub, 1.3 of Holden, 900K of Brandstrom, and Cam Talbot at 3.666667. So that's a lot of money. And Shane Pinto at 925. So guess how much that is. That gives the Senators, and Matt Murray's still there. Hold on, Bobby Ryan, okay. Okay, none of this is going to change. Actually, Dion Phaneuf, 0.3541. I can't believe this Dion Phaneuf's still going over there. Chrono SENS fan, I love the signing for Stutzle, but only time will tell. Fair enough. And Delzato will cost actually an extra 0.25. I think everything else pretty much stays the same there. Okay. All right. Grand total, drum roll, please. The Senators will have $29.035953 million to play with. So basically $29.04 million to sign, not that much in terms of the players that they have. They'll have to get new players. So Alex DeBrincat, let's really go crazy. Let's say he takes $9 million. You're still at the $20 million range right there. Exactly. You're kind of overpaying, quote, now to have a steal in 3 years. The cap's going up and everything. 8.35 is not bad. Other steals, Rob Thomas maybe could be a steal. Jack Hughes will be a steal. Guys like Jason Robertson, every day that goes by, they're going to be asking for more. 8.5, 8.7. The Dallas Stars got to get Jason Robertson signed up ASAP. But if you give DeBrincat $9 million, that still leaves you with 20. So let's say you give, whether it be Austin Watson or somebody else, let's say you give a guy, a bottom six forward, let's say you give him $2 million, you give a Gambrel a $1 million, Howard a $1 million, and Formenton's making $1.5 million. That's all your forwards. Now in your defense, you have Shabbat and Zaitsev signed up. So same for Jake Sanderson, and you're left with $14.53 million. Let's say you got a guy in your second pair for $3 million. A guy in your Zub costs whatever, 3.5. You get a Nick Holden kind of guy for 1.25, and Brandstrom also costs you a 1.25. That only leaves you got to get your start. And let's say Shane Pinto even takes another 950K. That leaves you with 4.58 million to get a goalie to play with Anton Forsberg. 4.5859 million. So the Senators are not in a bad position at all headed into 2023-24. They have their core signed on. They have the money to add Alex DeBrincat to that core. They just really got to spend some money on the defense. This contract, says Rory, sets the market for Caulfield too. I imagine he will sign for something close to Stutzle's AAV. Yeah, that's a good point. So going back to the Canadiens, if you're curious about what the Canadiens, if we're looking at them for 2023-24, because that's a very interesting situation. It's tough with all the LTIRing, but 10.239166 negative. Let's see, headed into next season. Add 5 million because Dadonov will be off the books. Add 3.5 with Byron off the books. Caulfield, so 0.8 0.8833, and Pizzetta at 0.75. Jordan Harris 0.8425, and Corey Schooneman at 0.75. Jake Allen at 2.875. That leaves you with 4.2 million, but you're also still offer sheeting. You're still. I was reading what someone else was saying. LTIR for Carey Price will likely still be in effect, and you get Monahan for 6.375, Drouin for 5.5. And that's about it, eh? So if Carey Price is once again LTIR, the Canadiens will have 26.64 million to play with in 2023-24. If you give Cole Caulfield, let's say the 8.5 million, and let's say you give Michael Pizzetta 950K, you give Jordan Harris, 1.25, you give a guy like Schooneman or whoever, it'll be 750K again. You sign another goalie. Let's say it's Caden Primo, who will likely be signed on. Let's say, I don't know, he's getting 3 million. And, Drouin, if he even comes back, 5 million. And let's say even 5 for Sean Monahan. That's signing on everyone that you want and getting Cole Caulfield for 8.5 and still leaving you with about 2.5 million to play with. And, if your top 6 is Suzuki, Gallagher, Anderson, or Hoffman, Dvorak, Caulfield, or even, it's more than enough. The Canadiens don't even need that money. They have everyone signed on. It would still be a very crowded team. So even with it still being crowded, you'd still have like 2.5 million to play with, assuming that Cole Caulfield gets a big contract and you can sign Monahan and Drouin for a total of 10 million between the two of them. So the Canadiens are in a good spot. Yeah, there's a lot of cap space coming for the Canadiens, Rory. There's a lot of cap space coming. It's pretty crowded right now, as I was saying earlier with the depth chart. It is quite crowded, very, very crowded. But there's going to be players moving out for 100% certainty right there. Kent Hughes looking at making deals. He's not going to force anything, but I'd be surprised if Mike Hoffman stays more than the beginning of the season. Obviously, guys like Dadonov will be gone by the halfway point. I don't think Sean Monahan's going to get moved. A lot of people were thinking that he might get moved for value, but I could see Sean Monahan signing a contract to stay with the Canadiens. So the Canadiens will have cap space. They'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 draft picks in 2023. Fingers crossed for Bedard. They'll have all their draft picks in 2024 minus their second, but they get Colorado's. They'll have that first from Calgary come 2025. The Canadiens are in a great spot, and so are the Senators. So it's a great day for everyone watching this video, whether you be a Habs fan or a SENS fan. Both these deals, these contracts, and these organizational positions are things that should be celebrated right now. So that just about does it for my breakdown, I think. There's not too much to say, aside from it's not an overpayment. It really isn't. It might feel like that for a very short time, but I feel like Tim Stützle is going to have a breakout season with these new line mates, and it won't just be with the new line mates. It'll also be because of his ongoing development. Again, like the way he moves the puck, if you watch him play, it is so smooth. It is very exciting. He has, I forget the stat exactly, but I believe it's fifth most dekes per 60. I don't know if it's dekes or open ice dekes or completed dekes per 60, but he was 5th in the NHL last season. So, maybe that means maybe that's something you don't like. Maybe you want him to be more conservative, but he's an electric player that people want to watch. And come 3, 4, 5 years from now, even if he isn't an 80, 90 plus point guy, if he's still 60, 70 points for the market 3, 4 years from now, when players at his age looking at extensions like this are getting 9, 10 million, that's gonna be a crazy day. But when that comes in a few years, you'll be able to say, all right, it wasn't a bad deal in the end. So the Sens should be doing exciting things this season. I would be surprised if they're pushing for the postseason. DeBrincat, Giroux, Stutzle signed up. There's an exciting thing. When you're looking at the psychology of sports, to have a core that is all signed up and committed to each other for so long. You have Shabbat, Batherson, Norris, Stutzle, Tkachuk, all there for 5+ years. Giroux for 3 more years. DeBrincat likely, I wouldn't be surprised if he extends for 6-7 years as well. I could see it. Playoff hope for the Senators. I would not be shocked, maybe a tad surprised, But now that I see this offseason, it's just the defense and the goaltending. Even the goaltending's not horrible, but it's more the defense. Shabbat, the workhorse, is going to be back out there in full force once again. But yeah, add a little defense. Maybe Artem Zub takes a step forward. It'll be an exciting season for the Senators. The Canadiens, I'm not sure what they're trying to do. On paper, they have a very good team. You'd think that like a wild card team almost, but they don't want to be a wild card team. They want to take a year of development. Their defense isn't ready for it. The goaltending is not ready for it. Jake Allen is likely going to get moved. Dadonov getting moved. It'll be better to move those guys for pieces than try and make a push that shouldn't happen, right? Yeah, Rory, Habs fan, I could see the Sens doing some serious damage if they can manage in the playoffs. Absolutely. I'm a Habs fan as well, but, being close enough, you get to see those local games on TSN 5. I watch a lot of Senators hockey. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a fan of the Senators, but I appreciate the Senators hockey very much. And I'm more excited than ever to watch their games this season. So ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to leave a like. If you haven't subscribed already for breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, be sure to do so, as well as our ongoing franchise mode and NHL 22 career mode simulation series. NHL 23 content is coming soon, as well as the franchise mode deep dive, which will be out later this month. Yeah, the division is stacked though, so it's going to be exciting hockey this year. No, the Habs, no, they will not be wild card. I'm just saying that on paper, when you look, like if you were to show me this lineup 2 years ago and just show me, hey, by the way, the Canes are going to have Dadonov, Hoffman, Monahan, show me that in 2018, I'd say, wow, are the Canes like pushing, are they like a playoff, like Eastern Conference finalist every year? Obviously, I'm just dreaming because I don't think that's what we want, even if it was possible. But no, the Canadiens will not be a wild card in the stacked East this year. If it was the Western Conference, it might be possible, but not what the Canadiens are looking to get done this season. Absolutely not. If they were getting too good, I would assume that they would probably start selling, those guys in those expiring deals. But all that to say, thank you everyone for being here on this wonderful, beautiful, sunny September afternoon on this beautiful Wednesday. More news to come in the real world of hockey, likely Jason Robertson RFA sometime soon. Other big names are still out there, more to be settled before the NHL starts up in about a month's time. It's going to be exciting stuff, and you'll want to be subscribed so you don't miss out on any of the action. If you haven't already, of course, also join the Discord server where breaking news breaks and we discuss it 24/7 around the clock. And I'll leave you off there. Thank you, everyone, for being here, adding your thoughts to the discussion, and I will see you in the next one. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your days.